And you have to just take control of your career, right?
Mm-hmm.
My current boss recently told me, and we laughed about it. He was like, "I've never seen anyone manage their career as much as you do." Oh my God, I kudos to you. Like, he's applauding me because he's like, that's great that you're taking
Yeah.
control of your career. Because the opposite of that is those who sit back, they do their work, but who think that just because they're doing their work, someone else is going to be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, let's promote that person that's just sitting there, that's kind of quiet, that's doing heads down doing their work." And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Our voices, stories, and experiences are powerful and need to be shared to create a more inclusive world. Welcome to Hablemos, conversations with talented humans about inclusion, leadership, and purpose. I'm your host, Carolina Veira, finance and business strategist, DEI champion, and proud Latina. I'm also the Director of Partnerships at CareMax, where I lead initiatives to promote the value of healthcare, education, inclusion, entrepreneurship, and community engagement, while fostering partnerships with other corporations and organizations in the U.S. This episode features Enna Jimenez, Head of Quality Assurance at IDEMIA. Enna is a technology executive with expertise in organizational change management, transformation, and leadership. Her mission is to continue working with diverse and young talent, mentoring, coaching, and helping them achieve success. Now, on to the episode.
How are you today?
Hi, Carolina. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's an honor. We work together on this authoring book, and seeing how the world is so small and it brings us all together in multiple ways. I think it's amazing. So I'm thankful for being able to speak to your audience today.
No, and we're thankful to have you as part of our community of leaders, and more than anything, for you setting an example for everyone around you, because that's what we need. We need more examples of people who are succeeding, and you know what, who are vulnerable enough to share what they have experienced to get to where they are. And for me, it's great. As you mentioned, we're all part of this wonderful book, Hispanic Stars Rising, The New Face of Power. And actually, your story is on page 123. And your phrase is, if you're handed it, then you can handle it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about you, where you come from, what do you do currently? How does your family look like? Because I know that you share a little bit of that in your story, but also why does that phrase is so important to you that you picked it up for your chapter?
Absolutely. So first of all, born in Puerto Rico, from Boston raised, and from Dominican parents. So I've been in Boston now for a very long time. So Boston is home. I have 4 amazing kids, 4 grandkids, believe it or not. I know people are like, "Oh my God, you got 4
you don't
grandkids."
look like you have 4 grandkids. Let me tell you that much.
I know. And the 2 oldest are kind of out of the home, so that the 2 youngest, who are both in college, are the ones that live with me right now. So sort of like the experience of blending families, so my stepsons, and the experience of living by parents who wanted to find a home, who wanted to give their kids a life, right? And so the whole experience of moving from Puerto Rico to Boston, as a family unit, starting from the bottom, starting from nothing, to parents who wanted to become entrepreneurs, right? Because that was their dream, to be able to better themselves. And I still remember my mom used to say to all of us when we were growing up, you're each going to go to college. I don't know how you're going to get there. I don't know how we're going to pay for it. I don't even know what the process is. But the one thing that's going to happen is that all of you are going to graduate from college. And that has stuck with me throughout my entire time, right? Because it was that push, that vision that they had for all of their kids. And I'm one of four. And plus, so I got a large extended brothers and sisters. And so, it's amazing to see everything that we've accomplished in our lives due to that strength and that passion that they gave us. The quote, it's something I still carry with me today. It's in my office at IDEMIA today. A colleague of mine earlier on in my career gave that to me, and it really just stands for resilience. If people hear me talk, or if you read my books and my articles, the one thing that I stress is the resilience, because look, we all have issues. We all have problems. We all fall down. It's about how you handle that. It's about how many times you get up and you keep going and then you reach success, right? And you need to have the resilience to be able to do that. And so that's really what it comes down to. And so at work, people will have seen me jumping into projects, jumping into issues and solving them with calm. Being direct, because you have to be direct as a leader, right? Influencing decisions, but navigating and leading the team towards the path that we want to take. So it really all comes down to the resilience and the drive that you have towards achieving whatever goals and objectives you have.
And I love that the basis of everything for you is family, right? I mean, yes. I can see in the way that you write that you consider everyone around you family. And I also love the fact that you mentioned that you walk around and you're always strategizing and always thinking how to connect the dots and how you are a connector. Because that's what we need more of at work. Those people who can see the big picture and connect and see, just ask the question, hey, do you need any help? I know it's such a simple question, but it opens so many doors.
It does, Carolina. And I think that that's the basis of so many beautiful, networks and opportunities that are out there. And sometimes just because we don't open the door for someone else, that other person, we just have no idea what they're going through. It's funny because there's been a number of folks that I've helped throughout my career that I didn't realize that I was doing something, but they have come to me and shared with me their story about, Enna, you don't know that day in that career fair that you gave me an opportunity. There was so many people for you to hire and you hired me. And I was like about to be evicted. I didn't have a home. I didn't know what I was going to do. And you gave me a chance. And that chance turned my entire life around. And that was, someone that worked for me a number of years ago. And she has shared that to me, maybe like, 5 years after we had stopped working with each other. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea that I had that impact. And it's funny because just recently we were at an Alpha event last week. We were kind of celebrating, Alpha chapter of the year, Boston chapter. So very excited, shout out to the Alpha Boston chapter. But in that event, another, Alpha board member came up to me and was like, thank you so much for everything you've done, because of you, I got the opportunities that I got. I was able to connect him with someone else who gave him a job, who created an entire world for him. And he's still here with us today because of that connection that I did. That I just do what I do. If you come to me and you're like, hey, do you know someone in this area? More than likely I do. And I have no problem in connecting someone to someone else. And to know that has impacted so many people and literally change people's lives, that's why I do things, and for me, that's more than enough.
And then it's great that you mentioned that, because that's what our community needs the most of. To know that I know you, you know me, and if at any point in time we need each other's support, or we need the support of somebody that
mm-hmm.
Not that hard to say, hey, how about reaching out? How about let me have a conversation? Can you do this for me? And not be afraid of asking for help. and not being afraid of or being willing to share that wealth of knowledge and those connections with each other. That's how we grow together. What do you think?
Yeah.
And another question for you, one question that I have for you is that one of the reasons why you're so involved in the work that you do in diversity, equity, and inclusion? I mean, has that been your mantra? Like, what really encouraged you to do work, to mix all the DEI, that big DEI component into what you do day in and day out? Because maybe people would think they're not connected, right? Technology and everything else, not really related to DEI, not thinking that it's all about people and we have to connect with the people. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. It's funny, as you said, right? I'm in technology. I've been in the technology space now for 30 years. I just celebrated my 30th Simmons reunion, so I know it's 30 years. But when I came into, IT, software development, quality assurance, I was often not just the only woman, the only Afro-Latina, the only Black Latina woman sitting in a room. And that was an experience that you never forget, right? You have to be very strong. You have to be very confident in your work to be able to sit up, stand up, speak, share your thoughts, your ideas, convince other people to do the things you're asking them to do. And knowing that I went through so many years where I was always the only one, that's what led me to say, wow, like, if I can do anything to help change that narrative, to help change the scenery, then I must do everything that I can. And so, I don't know. I mean, I can't really tell you where it first started, but it's just something that I saw a need to do something, and I just did. And then you kind of tie that in with my kids, like you said. Everything revolves around my family. So with my kids growing up, I became room parents. I became part of the school committee. I just started to get involved because it's for the better of my kids. And that just sort of led to one more thing and the next thing. And all of a sudden I was doing all of these volunteer and community engagements and social justice. And so I think it's just something that early on, I just kind of had that calling for it, and tied with the fact that my parents were very active as well in the community, right? So for those that know the Boston area, we have our Dominican festival, our Puerto Rican festival, and my parents were very involved in the Dominican festival and all the plannings and everything that goes along with that. So we always had that sense of community, giving back, sticking together and helping each other out. So I think it really just stems to all of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting for people to know that even though you are in technology or in finance or in marketing, you can still do something and create real change, create real impact. And it all starts, I mean, it's beautiful what you just talked about, doing community work, because that also paves the way for you to maybe do a little bit outside of what you typically do, right? You're in technology, but maybe that's how you learn to create a marketing campaign for, the event or something. So all of those opportunities, those are opportunities of growth, not only for you, but for the people around you, for your teams. So it's good that you mentioned that, because I believe that people will understand how to get there in a non-traditional way, right? How to grow.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And Carolina, I will add that as I moved up into management, that's when I really realized that, okay, it's in my hands. I can actually make a difference. And just to even pull the diversity part out of it, because when we think diversity, we think race, gender, right? All of that, which is a lot of what I focus on. But think about working at an organization that says, okay, let's go hire college students, but they're going to go to the Ivy League universities, right? Because that's where they say, oh my God, you got to go to MIT. You have to go to all of these schools that are known for, technology students. And I said, well, wait. I studied computer science and I came out of Simmons. Why can't we go to Simmons? And I was like, no, we're going to go to Simmons. And I went and I recruited. I got all these students. And when it came down to the final decision, okay, everyone's interviewed, right? We need to select students. My one student was going to be left out. And I was like, seriously? No one will be willing to hire this one college student because she came out of Simmons? And they're like, well, and if you want her, you hire her. Let me tell you, that was the wrong thing for them to say to me, because don't give me a challenge that you don't think I'm going to do. Okay. So not only did I hire her, she's still working there like 10 years later. She is kicking, she's doing amazing. I was about to swear.
And you're mentoring that person.
And she brought along a whole bunch of other Simmons students. And not only that, we brought in the aspect of the number of students or the number of universities and colleges that we went out to. And so we got diversity in the sense of what colleges and universities we went to. And that to me is another aspect that we don't often think about, but there are so many ways that we can influence decisions. And as you become managers and leaders, you have to be intentional. Some of the things that I do when I'm recruiting and I talk to my recruiting vendors, I say, what is your pool, your candidate pool? What's your diversity? What does it look like? How many Latinos do you have in your pool? How many, Black and Asians, how many do you have? And depending on their answer, believe it or not, I make a decision whether to work with them or not. I honestly do. And when they give me they send me a list of resumes, I'm looking to see, granted, sometimes you can't just tell by a name. Right. I get that. But sometimes you can. And so I'm making sure, right? I'm making sure that I'm getting male, women from different races, different genders, because if I don't put my little, grain of salt, if I don't try to move the needle, then who else will?
Exactly.
And if we all do it, then we will all move it.
And that's key, Anna. We have the power to do something. We should do something. It's like when we say, well, let's use our voices to unite. Let's use our voices to say something. But we actually have to take action and do it. And I applaud the fact that you are doing it, and I can see it in your work. I mean, that's the reason why you receive so many awards and accolades. I mean, I read Enna's bio for everyone who's watching. I read Enna's bio, and I'm like, okay, which award has she not received? Thank you very much. But I feel proud of that because
thank you.
It truly proves, hey, we have the qualities, the ability, we have the people, we have the resources. It's just a matter of making ourselves visible. And I know it's not easy. I know sometimes we have to knock many, many, many doors and make a lot lot. But you said, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If we don't do it.
And you have to just take control of your career, right?
Mm-hmm.
My current boss recently told me, and we laughed about it. He was like, I've never seen anyone manage their career as much as you do. Oh my God, kudos to you. Like, he's applauding me because he's like, that's great that you're taking control of your career. Because the opposite of that is those who sit back, they do their work, but who think that just because they're doing their work, someone else is going to be like, oh yeah, let's promote that person that's just sitting there, that's kind of quiet, that's doing heads down, doing their work. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. When I'm mentoring, early career women, I always say, the day you walk into a brand new job, you need to be working towards that promotion. Because day one, they assume you can do everything that's in that job description. So that means great. Check. Done, right? Put that job description to the side. Day one, you're working towards that next role. And if you're not doing that, then that's why people stay in roles for a very long time without getting those promotions.
Hi everybody, hola a todos, this is Carolina. I personally would like to invite you to be part of Hablemos by heading over to carolinaveda.com/Hablemos to sign up today. And while you're there, take a look at my DEI initiatives and discover how we can all be agents of change by creating sustainable projects through a DEI lens, and by sharing and celebrating our authentic stories and experiences while leading with compassion and empathy.
And not only that, another key component is asking for the promotion every so
Yes.
often. I feel like that's as women, and
Yes.
I'm sorry, but and sorry, as Latinos, we think that we're very submissive, obviously, because that's the way that it's the cultural quality, or not quality, but that's how we've been raised, and we have to stay quiet, do our job, work really hard. We are hardworking people,
Yes.
but we have that tendency to stay quiet and not ask for what it's right or fair on a constant basis. And that's what we should do more of.
And it's still and it's still a struggle, right? I mean, it doesn't come easy. It does. I do it, and it doesn't come easy to me. It's something that you work hard at it, and you try. You put yourself out there, and you say, okay, I'm doing all the right things. I'm talking to all the right people. I'm hearing all the right feedback, but that promotion still isn't coming through. You know what I mean? And so I've been in that seat, and I know what that feels like, and it's hard, but you just have to keep at it. You have to keep pushing. And sometimes you just have to say, you know what, I may need to go elsewhere, because if that organization is not going to recognize what I'm able to deliver and do, then someone else will. Right. And that's just life.
It is. It's, I know it's bittersweet, because if we're part of an organization, we most likely love leadership. We're connected to them. We want to make it work. But like you said, sometimes it's time for new opportunities, and change is always good. Now, what do you think that is your purpose? Why do you, obviously you're very deeply connected to community in the way that you lead, in the way that you've been raised, in the way that you connect with people. But how would you summarize what's your purpose in life?
Yeah, sort of my objective for being in this world.
Right? A simple question, right?
A simple question. Oh my God. There's so much, I mean, to that. You can never do it justice answering that question, right? But I believe that my purpose is really just to help others, and to open doors, and just to really be a connector. I feel like what I've done throughout my career, and maybe more intentionally over the last 10 years, has really been about connecting, networking, inspiring, and creating opportunities for others. And that's what I love to do. I love to connect others. I love to be able to share, what's happening. If I know of a job and I know someone's looking, connect two people together. That's really why I do what I do. And Carolina, it's important to note that the future is Latino. People don't realize that, right? And a lot of people want to ignore that fact, but it is the fact. The future is Latino. Latinos will be ruling the world in the future. And so we need to think, businesses, companies, organizations, everyone needs to think, how are they going to cater to the Latino community? Because we're not doing its justice today. And some people better than others, right? Obviously, the world continues to evolve, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And the organizations that do not start focusing on the Latino community will be the organizations that may not exist in the future.
Absolutely.
And so my goal is to help train, develop the Latinos that, because the reality is that there are a whole bunch of Latinos that feel like they're not equipped. They're not ready to be in that space, in that world, to be in the limelight, right? And so how do we develop these, our citizens, our fellow colleagues, so that they can meet the challenges of what the world is going to be expecting from us?
In your experience, what have been the 3 top things that you do to develop that talent?
Mentoring, of course, because part of that is just being able to provide. How can I say it? Provide additional skills around being being confident in your skills, right? Being able to speak. So public speaking is important, and not just public speaking from a speaking engagement, but speaking in meetings, speaking your opinion. Say if you disagree with someone, sharing that, right? So confidence in being able to stand your own, and be able to speak your truth, right? So building that, I think that's all under development. So both soft skills, hard skills, kind of all of that built in together. That's kind of under the mentoring. And then networking, I think networking and creating access, right? I sit on a board here in Massachusetts, workforce development. And one of the things that they do is they work with organizations, corporations, to understand what are the different roles that they're going to have today and in the future. And then they have training programs so that they can help train the employees so that they can be ready for those jobs that these organizations are going to be looking for, right? So connecting, right? And that's very important. And I think that the last one is really just around making people happy, right? I think you need to be happy with yourself. You need to be happy with where you're at in life, because when you're happy, that sort of comes off, right? People will see that aura. And honestly, when someone has that positive energy, it will welcome people towards you. And the amount of opportunities that will just get presented are like amazing, right? Because positivity, como se dice, like you get positive,
contagious.
Right? Contagious, right? And so those are the things that I tend to focus on when I'm mentoring and talking to others. So.
And now, obviously, Anna, you know that we need more representation. I mean, you just said it, and not only that, we need more representation of the Afro-Latino community. I know that you mentioned that when you're hiring, you're very intentional about your pool of candidates, making sure there's diversity. Do you do anything in particular to attract the Afro-Latino talent for your teams and for your company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that in previous organizations, I worked really hard with a number of organizations that have kind of that candidate pool. So I think of Europe, Code Warriors, and there's a few others that we've hired those organizations to be able to make sure that we have that pipeline of young college students. So from an early career, college early career, those connecting with those organizations is the way I've done that. From a mid-career, senior career perspective, it's a little more difficult. It's actually very, very much more difficult. Luckily, I tend to be very active in terms of, in social media. And so because of that, I'm part of a number of groups. And so that's how I connect with Latinos. There's Latinos in technology, there's Latinos in QA, right? Latinos in software development life cycle. So I find those groups, and that's how I try to connect with those candidates, right? Or those employees. And so the other part of that is just showing up, right? And showing people that I can and have succeeded as a role, as being as an Afro-Latina, I have succeeded in life. And I think sometimes it's about having those role models. And so here in Massachusetts, we have an organization called Amplify Latinx. So with my great friend, Rosario Ubiera, Minaya, and she's great. And so she really does a lot, or Amplify Latinx organization does a lot to raise awareness, right? And so I try to connect with those type of organizations to make sure that we're sharing information all the time. So those are some of the things that I've done. Just being present, making sure that people understand that representation does matter. Talking about it is very important.
I know, and I know that you're going to be hosting a series of events as well about that as well for Hispanic Heritage Month. So I commend you for all the work that you're doing and the intentional connections that you make to create that change, right? To bring more representation into not only IDEMIA, but everywhere else, because we all have an impact and we can all bring new blood and that representation that every organization needs. And not only organizations, we also need representation in media. We need representation. Yeah. I mean, you can say we need it everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
of them, I know that we had a discussion as well about movies, and I guess you and I, we share a passion for dance, salsa and dance and music, and we were talking about the movie. Oh my God,
In the Heights.
In the Heights, I forgot the name. Can you believe that? But yeah, we were talking about that and how this amazing, beautiful movie, what I think was a beautiful, beautiful movie, was kind of put aside, or did not get all the momentum that it could have gotten, because there was this controversy about the lack of diversity and the colorism in it. And what we were discussing is we're given so many little opportunities as it is right now, that once we have a movie like this, that maybe it's not perfect, or it doesn't have all the details that we would all love to see, but it has so much of what our Latino community is about. And I think that somehow we miss the beat on supporting movies like this, supporting these roles, and supporting the Latinx community. I don't, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I'll say, and as I shared with you, right, I was one of the first ones who was like, oh my God, I told my whole family, we have to go see this movie. Like, all my brothers and sisters, we all went together. I was like, oh, In the Heights, yes. So I absolutely love the movie. It was just beautifully done. I felt myself in the storylines. I felt my family, their stories were there. I cried, I laughed. I mean, yes, hands down, I absolutely loved it. Now, of course, after I left the movie and I'm home and I'm just exhilarating from having watched this movie, then you sort of go on social media and you start seeing all of this information, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened here, right? And so then I learned about all the issues that came out around the colorism issue. And as an Afro-Latina, I completely understood. I kind of sit back and you're like, oh yes, that's right. I've been to the Bronx. I've been to the Heights in Washington. I have family that lives there. I know very well what that looks like, right? So I'm able to connect with both sides, right? Love the movie. I think we needed to support it and really push it forward. But understand how the lack of, Afro-Latinos in the lead scene, because it's not that there weren't any at all, right? But there weren't any in the lead roles, and understanding the importance behind that. Look, I think it's an opportunity that we still need to continue to talk about this. We still need to be able to realize that nothing is perfect. Yes, it is still 2021. Yes, we still shouldn't be talking about this, but unfortunately we are, right? The Black Lives Matter was just last year. The fact that Luis Miranda was able to make this movie, a Hollywood movie, spend the amount of money that he did to put this in the cinemas, right? And supported by Hollywood, that is what we needed to celebrate, right? And it doesn't take away from the fact that everyone's doing the best that they can. It doesn't mean he could not have, made some of the other actors be Afro-Latino, but look, we're not all perfect. We're not all perfect. And I think that some folks lost sight of the wins, right? It didn't need to be a either or. It needed to be an and, right? We need to have the movie and celebrate it. And we need to talk about how do we make sure that the next movie includes more Afro-Latinos. And guess what? That's the first one. And now the next one will be, he paved the way so that there could be others to come behind there that continue to support all the other races that we need to support, right?
Absolutely. And it's not easy to pave the way. It's not easy to pave the way, because I'm sure that you've paved the way in many instances, in many corporations, many organizations, yes, where you were the only voice, right? And maybe you didn't do everything perfect, but you did it with the best intentions and to the best of your abilities. And that's why you're celebrated.
Right. And you couldn't have said it better, right? All the right intentions were there. They all were. I have to sit back here and say that I believe Luis had the best intentions in the world of making the best movie that represents Latinos, right? Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx, that represents all of us. But look, there's no one movie can potentially represent every aspect of everything. I
was thinking about that. I was thinking about that because we're too, oh, no, Colombia, no, Dominican Republic, oh,
yes.
no, Puerto Rico, Cuba. And that's something that we need to work on. And we're constantly advancing and growing and learning. But yes, we hopefully at some point we sit back and we say, oh, we're all in this together. We're all Latinos. We're all trying to elevate each other. So it's okay to just say, oh, we're Latinos, and it's okay.
Yes. And it's okay. Absolutely. And we have to celebrate the beautifulness that we each have, right? Whether you're from Uruguay, from Venezuela, from Peru, from Santo Domingo, we all have richness in our culture. And we need to just come together and celebrate it as a group of Hispanic Latinos who are just striving towards having a better future, better life for our kids, our families, and our livelihoods. And that's what it really needs to come down to. Carolina, when people are with me, it's about family. I'm about, okay, let's have a great time. I walk into a room and I can liven up a room.
And that's why I truly believe that's why you're so successful at what you do, because it's about celebrating, and that's what we are about, right? Making sure that we're connected and that we're a family and that we do things for each other. So if anyone at some point wants to connect with you, wants to bring you to their organization to, I don't know, share your words of wisdom with them, you're very connected with ERGs and very involved in that work as well. How do people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. The best way for people to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn, which is just Enna Jimenez, the LinkedIn .coms, Enna Jimenez is certainly the easiest and best way to get a hold of me. Carolina, I'd be remiss if I did not mention, I'm going to sneak in here, the fact that we're launching a book. I'm part of this 12 authors that have come together to create a book called Extraordinary Latinas. And it's launching on September 15th. So I hope you and your audience will support me and my other, Latina women who are just sharing our stories, right? Finding ways so that everyone else, so we can learn from each other, just become role models. But it's not just about, sharing the story of someone of like an actor or an actress, but someone that you can touch, someone that, yes, you can reach out to me. Yes, we'll get on the phone. I'll be happy to talk to you, right? I'm happy to understand what are your struggles and help you through that. So we've got an amazing book. Again, it's called Extraordinary Latinas. It's going to come out on September 15th. I'll be sharing more information on my LinkedIn page.
I was gonna say, right on time for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have to bring that book to Miami.
Yes.
Let's bring the book to Miami. I'm part of this initiative, which is Latina Economic Advancement Project with LEAP. And we're trying to do a bazaar where we're gonna have people in arts and crafts and showing their talent, and literature is one of them. So we'll be more than honored to have you present your book with the other authors as well, because that's what we need. And we talk about this all the time. We need more representation. We need more role models, and we need to make this information accessible to every Hispanic, to every Latino, to talk more about our stories and our success stories more than anything. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Of course, we have to make some noise. So please include me, include all of us, include the Hispanic Star in this initiative. We'll be more than glad to support you.
Ay, muchas gracias. Gracias, Carolina.
No, of course, that's what we're here for. But thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your experience, sharing your wisdom with us, because you are such a talented powerhouse. And I'm very honored to talk to you, to know you, and to work with you in any and every initiative that we can to keep elevating our community. So thank you so much, Enna. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Carolina. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you and your audience. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. if you have any questions about Enna, I mean, you'll find her in LinkedIn, Enna Jimenez, very easy to find her. And, if you have any questions for her, let us know, let her know. And on my end, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast today and also send me a DM at Caro Veira. Share the love, share the comments, share the thoughts. Special thanks to our partners at the Hispanic Star and Catuna Digital Marketing. Gracias mil. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll be back next time with a new episode of Hablemos. Ciao.